In the Netherlands, the International Court of Justice on Friday ordered the Israeli government to take all measures within its power to prevent acts of genocide in Gaza. In Venezuela, the Attorney General Tarek William Saab offered statements on the acts of conspiracy of the Venezuelan far right to lash out against the country. And the government of China expresses its concern by considering the North Atlantic Treaty Organization as a walking war machine for provoking and participating in several war conflicts since its creation. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The International Court of Justice on Friday ordered the Israeli government to take all measures within its power to prevent acts of genocide in Gaza. In this regard, the United Nations High Court, based in The Hague, issued a verdict after the government of South Africa filed a lawsuit against Israel for genocidal acts in Gaza due to the ongoing offensive that has already killed more than 26,000 people. In turn, ICJ Attorney Joan Donoghue and other judges of the Hague Tribunal ruled by 15 votes to 2 that Israel must take measures to prevent the killing of civilians in Gaza and all conditions detrimental to their livelihood that could lead to their partial destruction or prevent peace among the Gaza population. In this way, the tribunal will give Benjamin Netanyahu's government 1 month to submit a report on the measures ordered. It should be noted that a final ruling on whether Israel committed genocidal acts could take up to a year or more. In turn, the Hamas group reiterated that it will abide by any ceasefire ruling as long as Israeli troops reciprocate. In this context, the judge of the International Court of Justice, Attorney Joan Donoghue, acknowledged that the Israeli siege in Gaza since October 7th has resulted in massive destruction of Gaza, with nearly 2 million displaced persons, more than 60,000 wounded, and more than 25,000 deaths.
The court notes that the military operation being conducted by Israel following the attack of 7 October 2023 has resulted in a large number of deaths and injuries, as well as massive destruction of homes, the forcible displacement of the vast majority of the population, and extensive damage to civilian infrastructure. While figures relating to the Gaza Strip cannot be independently verified, recent information indicates that 25,700 Palestinians have been killed, over 63,000 injuries have been reported, over 360 housing units have been destroyed or partially damaged, and approximately 1.7 million persons have been internally displaced.
The International Court of Justice also recognized the inhuman behavior of Benjamin Netanyahu's administration, citing that senior Israeli officials referred to Gazans as animals.
The UNRWA Commissioner General also stated that the crisis in Gaza is, I quote, compounded by dehumanizing language, end of quote. In this regard, the court has taken note of a number of statements made by senior Israeli officials. It calls attention in particular to the following examples. On 9 October 2023, Mr. Yoav Gallant, Defense Minister of Israel, announced that he had ordered a complete siege of Gaza City, and that there would be no electricity, no food, no fuel, and that everything was closed. On the following day, Minister Gallant stated, speaking to Israeli troops on the Gaza border, I quote, "I have released all restraints. You saw what we are fighting against. We are fighting human animals. This is the ISIS of Gaza. This is what we are fighting against. Gaza won't return to what it was before. There will be no Hamas. We will eliminate everything."
In this regard, the International Court of Justice ordered the Israeli government to take all measures within its power to prevent acts of genocide in Gaza.
For these reasons, the court indicates the following provisional measures. 1. By 15 votes to 2, the State of Israel shall, in accordance with its obligations under the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in relation to the Palestinians in Gaza, take all measures within its power to prevent the commission of all acts within the scope of Article 2 of the Convention, in particular, A, killing members of the group, B, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, C, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, and D, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group.
Meanwhile, on Friday in South Africa, locals hailed the ruling of the highest court of the United Nations ordering Israel to do everything possible to prevent any act of genocide in Gaza. The International Court of Justice in The Hague issued its verdict in a landmark case brought by Pretoria, also ordering Tel Aviv to allow humanitarian aid access to the Palestinian territory. Let us recall that the South Africa accused Israel of breaching the 1948 United Nations Genocide Convention established in the aftermath of World War II.
Perhaps now in this space we're discussing the extent to which it can have an impact. That's something that we're curious to see, especially with what Israel is going to respond with in a month's time as the court has instructed. But I think for now it is a step in the right direction, for sure.
The judges have done the work, they've applied their mind, and it's 15 to 1, 15 to 2, 16 to 1, and it's good for our jurisprudence, and it's good for humanity, and I hope that Israel will respect the judgment and will act accordingly.
In this regard, South African Foreign Minister Naledi Pandor stated that this is a decisive victory for the international rule of law and an important milestone in the pursuit of justice for the Palestinian people, but she said that the ICJ must issue a ceasefire order.
I believe that in exercising the order, there would have to be a ceasefire. Without it, the order doesn't actually work. I would have wanted a ceasefire. No, they didn't.
Are you disappointed
but how,
that they didn't specify that?
I have no way that I'm going to say I'm disappointed. I hoped for it, but the fact of delivering humanitarian aid, the fact of taking measures that reduce the levels of harm against persons who have no role in what Israel is combating, for me requires a ceasefire. And I believe Israel would have to attend to how it conducts its search for the hostages and for those Hamas individuals who carried out the October 7th.
Palestinians are happy about the decision of the International Court of Justice for calling on Israel to prevent genocide. However, no ceasefire was ordered, which was disappointing to many others. Our teleSUR correspondent Noor Harasan with the details.
Mixed feelings among Palestinians here on the ground. They are happy about the significant orders from the International Court, but at the same time they are disappointed because they wanted a ceasefire. They were thirsty for a ceasefire. This is what Palestinians here on the ground want. They want to see and feel some changes actually happening here on the ground, especially that we are talking big numbers. I mean, it has been 112 days of this Israeli operation on Gaza. We're talking about more than 26,000 Palestinians that were killed. 70% of them are women and children. We're talking about more than 1.5 million displaced Palestinians who were forced to evacuate their homes. So people want to go back to their homes. People want to see this killing, and people want to see more humanitarian aid entering into Gaza, and they want to actually feel the humanitarian change here on the ground. So yes, it is mixed feeling, but they are happy about this promising beginning from the International Court. Talking about the latest on the ground, the Palestinian Health Ministry said that 183 Palestinians were killed in Gaza during the past 24 hours in various Israeli strikes and shelling on Gaza from its north to its south. Most of these killings actually happened in the city of Khan Yunis. Noor Harazin, teleSUR, Gaza.
Palestinian authorities announced on Friday that the Israeli occupation army has killed 26,083 people in the Gaza Strip. In this regard, the Gaza Health Authority added that of the total number of dead, more than 18,000 are women and children, and also confirmed 64,487 wounded. None of these records include the bodies under the rubble. This update on the Tel Aviv regime's harassment comes in a context in which the International Court of Justice is in The Hague to make a pronouncement on the genocide lawsuit filed by South Africa against Israel. It should be noted that Benjamin Netanyahu's government does not recognize the death toll, despite the support of the Red Cross and the United Nations. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. On Friday, the Attorney General of Venezuela, Tarek William Saab, offered statements on the acts of conspiracy of the Venezuelan far right to lash out against the country. The Attorney General's statement reaffirmed that the opposition, with its conspiratorial acts in conjunction with organized crime, wants to fill the country with blood and violence. In this way, Saab also affirmed that at least six people will be charged with responsibility for the wide armed operation for crimes of training the country, political conspiracy, classified attempted intentional homicide against the president Nicolás Maduro. In this sense, the Attorney General reiterated that those who plan and conspire against the peace and stability of the country will be punished with the full weight of the law. The Bolivarian National Armed Force of Venezuela has shot down on Thursday an airplane carrying weapons and drugs. The country ratifies that it will not be a land for the trafficking of illicit substances. The head of the Strategic Operational Command of the Armed Forces, Domingo Antonio Hernandez, explained that the aircraft coming from Mexico was detected by the radars when it was flying over the Venezuelan airspace with the transponder turned off and without a flight permit. Hernandez confirmed that the plane illegally entered the state of Zulia carrying drugs and weapons. It is presumed that transnational groups coordinated the operation. The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has called attention to the government of Ecuador regarding the measures it has implemented to address the current crisis of violence. Liz Thrososel, the spokesperson of the High Commissioner, recalled that human rights must be at the center of all policies aimed to stopping violence, ratifies that the measures taken by the executive branch must be proportionate and limited, always respecting the principles of legality, necessity, proportionality, and non-discrimination. It also emphasized that the powers assigned to the armed forces must be exceptional and subordinated to a civilian authority. In El Salvador, the Supreme Electoral Tribunal and some of the members of the voting boards will participate on Sunday, January 28th, in a simulation of the presidential and legislative elections of next February 4th. On Sunday, 1,505 voting centers will be set up, that is 94% of the 150 and 1,595, that will actually be on the election day, and each voting center, a voting receiving board, will be set up, each one made of 5 property members and 5 substitutes. More than 5 million Salvadorans are invited to participate next Sunday, February 4th, starting at 7 a.m. local time, in the election of the president who will govern in the 2024-2029 quinquennium, and of 60 deputies of the Legislative Assembly for the 2024-2027 period. The headquarters of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime in Bolivia validates the management of the plurinational authority in the fight against drug trafficking. This Thursday was presented the validation report on the destruction of illegal drugs seized in Bolivia Management 2023. The report, based on the accompaniment of the organism to the process of destructions of illegal drugs seized and entered to the evidence rooms of the state, reaches 97% of recognition of the work. In the period analyzed, 48.5 tons of illegal drugs were destroyed, and the processes, according to the international organizations, complied with the legal standards of transparency. The Brazilian Supreme Court investigates an alleged mafia in the country's main intelligence agency for illegally spying on politicians and authorities. On Thursday, the magistrate Alexandre de Moraes, responsible for the case, authorized the federal police to search the residence of 12 of the accused. The evidence collected so far shows that the agents illegally spied on opponents of the government of former President Jair Bolsonaro and tried to favor the sons of the ultra-right-wing leader. This is stated in a statement released by the Supreme Court with reasons that led to authorize the 21 raids on residents and offices of members of the Brazilian intelligence agency. Judge de Moraes decided that the agents under investigation should be temporarily removed from their positions. The president of Argentina, Javier Milei, dismissed this Thursday Guillermo Ferraro, who served for a few weeks as infrastructure minister. He is accused of leaking privileged information. According to multiple outlets, Milei's cabinet chief, Nicolás Pos, accused Ferraro of leaking sensitive information from the government meetings and asked him to resign his post. The official repeated a phrase of the head of state, who referred in a cabinet meeting to the possibility of melting those governors. The expression translates as extortive pressures against the regional governors, especially those who oppose the libertarian decrees. Far from denying or clarifying the serious references made in an executive space, the president lashed out against Ferraro. Hours before the so-called leak, the Minister of Economy, Luis Caputo, had already warned the governors that he would leave them without money. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news, coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed. teleSUR final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The government of China considers the North Atlantic Treaty Organization as a walking war machine for provoking and participating in several global conflicts since its creation. Chinese Defense Ministry spokesman Wu Xian highlighted the bloc has provoked and participated in global conflicts since its creation. The minister noted that in recent years NATO has been expanding into the Asia-Pacific region using the unfounded narrative of the Chinese threat as an excuse. He pointed out that these measures are aimed at generating bloc confrontations and representing a regional security risk. The spokesman also urged NATO to stop fabricating lies and taking dangerous actions that cause chaos in the region and do something beneficial for global peace. China has described the United States as a threat to the world's air and maritime security and claims that it undermines international law with its repeated abuses. China accused the United States on Thursday of abusing international law with its military maneuvers in the Western Pacific a day after a U.S. Navy destroyer sailed through the Taiwan Strait. Wu Qian, a spokesman for the Ministry of Defense, urged Washington to assess global security interests and stop its operations in the sensitive area. The statements are of particular significance as they were made in the framework of the 17th China-U.S. Defense Policy Coordination Dialogue. Xiang assured that Beijing's disagreements with Washington are based on the constant harassment and provocations in the vicinity of Chinese territory. In India, the 17th anniversary of the Republic is celebrated this Friday with a parade representing the military might achieved by the nation. Led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, President Draupadi Murmu and his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron, the parade at Kartava Path in New Delhi was attended by more than 13,000 special guests and officials. The celebrations on this date are presented with a traditional parade that combines a display of the country's military might and culture. The ceremony began with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's tribute to the country's heroes with the Lion of Wreath at the National War Memorial. Republic Day is a national holiday in India commemorating the adoption of the Constitution, which came into force on January 26, 1950. In France, farmers continue protesting for better working conditions and against low wages, rising fuel prices, the impact of inflation, and the European environmental standards. This Friday, at least 85 French departments are experiencing a day of tensions following the escalation of protests by farmers. For its part, the government said that Prime Minister Gabriel Attal will travel to one of the hot spots to announce a first package of support measures for farmers. The main farmers' union movements maintain that the aim of the protest is to block the highways with tractors so that the government responds to their demands. The government declared that it will respond to the farmers' concerns. However, the unions assured that they will not accept solutions below their expectations and needs. The mayor of Bogotá, Carlos Fernando Galán, announced this Thursday that schools will go virtual due to the forest fires affecting the Colombian capital. The flames in the eastern hills of Bogotá have damaged the environment, so the capital's government has taken a series of measures, among them the change from an on-site assistance to a virtual assistance in schools located in areas with air quality alert. The president of the nation, Gustavo Petro, also made reference to the measures that have been taken by the national government due to the situation generated by the fires affecting Colombia as a consequence of the climatic phenomenon El Niño. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.